I'm Father Mawhinney. I'm the priest in charge at St Michael's in South Westoe and St Hilda's in the town centre. So I've been here in South Shields now for just about 6 months. I started at the end of May when we were still in lockdown, and I'm in charge of those two churches. We've been back to church for a few months now, since the beginning of July. And before that, I was a curate, a Church of England curate in Seaham, just down the road, serving my title there, having trained for ministry in Oxford. It's really important that that we make connections with people, people in the community. People here in the Northeast are very open and friendly. I think it's important to get to know people. One of the difficulties I've had arriving at the time when we've been in lockdown is that the normal sort of welcome and introduction to people that I might have expected that would normally happen at a public service of induction, all that happened across the internet on Zoom. So those initial kind of introductions didn't happen. So I had to just sort of finding my way at the moment. It's a strange time to start in a job where you particularly want to be engaging with people, getting to know people in the town and in the various church communities, the faith groups in the town. It's been a bit of a difficult time, really, to do that. But it's very important, I think, to get to know people, to learn about their families, their background, to get to know what their interests are. And this has been a time, certainly, when we've seen a lot of good neighbourliness between people as they've coped, with the pandemic and the lockdown and so on these past few months. I think that getting to know people is that getting to know who people are, getting to know what their beliefs are, what their values are, getting to know their families are ways that we can avoid making a difference between people. Those behind prejudice are usually the ideas that that we don't know who people are, we don't know about them. We are suspicious of people, perhaps, who are different from ourselves. And so to tackle that prejudice, to set aside those ideas of otherness, I think it's important that we get to know people, that we really get to know them well, and that we see, the good in everybody. There's been such good work done by people of faith and people of no faith to support others at this time, people who are feeling vulnerable, people who are lonely or isolated. And I think that good neighbourliness is all to the good. Important, and I think it's been great to see that solidarity between peoples of different background, particularly these past few months. There's been some working together that's done this. It's just notable in the past few days, as we're about to go into a second lockdown, that the Northeast is one of the only areas where the infections from coronavirus are on the decline. And I think that's to do with people wanting to do the right thing, pulling together, making a community effort to do the right thing and support each other. I think particularly reaching out to people who, as I say, who are feel themselves vulnerable, feel themselves isolated from friends and family at this time. And I think that in this area has been a huge community effort. Well, we have had, as I said, when I arrived here at the end of May, we were still in a sort of semi-lockdown situation. At that point, churches were closed. They're about to be closed again later this week. So that has had a big effect. It was a big thing to get churches. I mean, lots of people have had this experience as well. If they're running restaurants or cafes and so on, it's been a big thing to get the churches prepared for people to come back to worship. But we've done that, and we've had church services regularly since the beginning of July, since the 9th of July. And it's a shame, really, that we're looking to have to close the buildings again later this week. But I think at that time it's important to keep communication between our parishioners, between those who come to our churches and those in the wider community, and to support each other at that time. I suppose one of the most notable things, which has been strange for many people, has been the work that I do in terms of funeral ministry. That's been very different since March. The fact that you don't get the chance to actually meet with a bereaved family ahead of the funeral service, and then often the funeral service is somewhat curtailed and under restrictions of numbers and things. I think that's been very difficult for people, and I think people will need lots of support coming out of that situation.